Welcome back, everybody, here with Coach Devitte, a lot of people's favorite, alongside Coach Blue. So, Coach Devitte, a lot to get into. Obviously, John Stark to Tilton with your high school experience. We'll go through that all the way through coaching and just your journalism for lacrosse and everything. So, excited to have you.
Yeah, it's fun.
So, can you talk about your John Stark experience first?
So I was on the first ever John Stark lacrosse team.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the captain both my years with one of my good friends, Mark Rowe. I played defense, and we played a zone, and in the zone, I sat in the middle and hit everything. So we didn't have football. We didn't have hockey at that time. I was always a contact sports kid, but I didn't have the sport. My first game, my brother loves telling it. My brother played at NEC. He also played at Stark. He loves telling the story. My brother's like 7.5 years younger than me. He's watching at NEC at the grass field, not the turf. So out by where the baseball field is now. The huge hill. He's sitting on the huge hill, and I hit a kid, and his shoe came off. And he flew in the air and landed. And I got a penalty, and then I looked down, and like my stick's bent, and I'm like, okay. So I go serve the penalty. I come right back in, and another kid blindsides me with a pick, and I push through the pick and snap my shaft. So I have to drop it and run off. No penalty. Come back in, different kid is coming up to shoot, and he doesn't see me coming, and I blindside him, and his helmet comes off, his glove comes off, and you could hear the hit. And my brother was like, I've never heard anything like that in my life. He's like, it was the greatest. He's like, he was just so happy. He was so proud. Okay? Like I don't think he knew the word to use right there, but that's kind of what he was feeling. And he's like, I can't wait to play lacrosse. And for me, that first game, I was just like, I'm hooked on this. This is amazing. I love this. I had no skills. Listen, no skills. Skills were developed much later in the career. But early high school, we were just smashing people. It was fun. It was a good time.
So was high school your first time playing lacrosse, or did you play when you were a little bit younger?
No, high school, 16, I think. And I actually learned how to play box first at a little arena where the Buffalo Wild Wings is now in Concord. We used to have a little roller rink arena, like outdoor arena.
Didn't know that.
Like, it's not really an arena. It was like I don't know, however you want to say it, outdoor rink, right? And I played with the Cesare brothers. Mike Cesare is the all-time leading scorer at SNU. And then his little brother also played at SNU, and his older brother played at Hobart. So they taught us how to play lacrosse. It was just me, a couple Stark kids. I'm sure there was kids from Hopkinton, kids from Concord, kids from Kearsarge, all around the area. Just playing small nets. No one knows what we're doing. Just trying to smash stuff into the net. And that's how I learned to play lacrosse. And then in high school, I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to play this. It's going to be great. A couple of my best friends, my whole friend group played lacrosse. I loved it. It was amazing. We were all, and like we weren't like good, but we didn't know that. So like we just like felt like we were good, and we played like we were good. But
that's half the battle.
We weren't. We were bad, right? But lifelong friends. They're still my friends to this day, and my friend Greg and I were the first two kids from Stark to ever play lacrosse in college. He played at Norwich, and I played at St. Mike's and then Clark.
That's really impressive. So can you talk a little bit briefly just about soccer and basketball, because you also played those sports?
Soccer, I was a walking yellow card, but in like the best way. Like I played right back, and I got 2 yellows in the same game within 10 seconds of each other, and I got sent to the bus for that my sophomore year. But I've always been kind of not fast, but like quick. And I've always had like a yearning for like contact, right? So that's what I would do. That's how I played. I booted the ball, I booted the dude. Like that's just how it happened. Basketball, I'm not like great at basketball, as I'm sure the kids have told you the story of our Coach Blue and I's one-on-one. It was the ugliest thing ever. But I love basketball. It was my first love. I loved basketball. I'm just not tall enough to play basketball, but I found a way, right? And the way I found was to play lockdown defense. That's kind of where basketball's where I fell in love with defense, and learning how to play defense and taking angles. And I mean, believe it or not, blocking shots. I used to be able to jump really high, and I would surprise people a lot, and I wasn't a good shooter, I love to run the floor and hit layups, but I could not shoot at all. So bad. So bad. But I loved playing and got to play on 2 teams in high school, town teams, not school teams, that won 2 state championships for our division, which was great. A lot of fun. I played 8 seconds in one of the championship games. It was cool. As a senior, I think. But I love basketball. I still played pickup forever. Learned how to shoot when I was about 35. Still not very good, but just a sport I love to play.
All right, you took a post-grad year at Tilton Prep.
Yes.
Talk about that for a minute.
If I didn't take the post-grad year, I would have failed out of college. And I say that because the post-grad year taught me a lot about discipline, playing 3 varsity sports, soccer, basketball, and lacrosse. I was also, I got hurt that year early on playing lacrosse, and a very serious injury. I had a doctor who told me I'd never play again, and I was like, yeah, I will. It'll just take a while, right? I just didn't want to get surgery. I was too young to get the surgery they wanted to do anyway. I was only 19. So basically, had a sports REM, tore a bunch of stuff in my groin. It's really gross. You don't want to get into it. So from there, I just kind of tried to get into schools. I had a bunch of offers. I want to say like not athletic offers, but offers from schools that were good academically. I was, B+ student all the way through.
Okay.
So, I not super smart, but like I got through, right? Like I was good at writing. That's what I was good at. I didn't know I was going to be a writer or a journalist or whatever you want to call it, or a podcast. I didn't know I was going to do that, but I knew I was going to do something, right? Something that I could create because I wanted to. And, put your mind to it, you can pretty much do anything.
Very true. College experience, went to St. Mike's after your first, post-grad year.
Yep.
So how'd that come about?
They didn't recruit me hard, but I had conversations with the coach. I played in fall ball, so I lost year of eligibility, and then I got hurt in fall ball. We were playing against UVM, and I got flipped and landed on the same bad leg. Re-injured that severely. Saw a specialist who was the doctor for the Vermont at UVM and was the USA ski team doctor and former USA women's soccer team doctor. He just told me I never played again. I remember getting the MRI and I was just like, yeah, I am, and just walked out. I just didn't want to hear it. I could walk, I just couldn't explode or do anything impressive anymore, right? Mm-hmm. So I just kind of had to go back to square one. I didn't like how far away the school was, so I went home. My best friend was going to WPI in Worcester, and he's like, there's 10 colleges in Worcester. Someone's going to take you. And I was like, how many have lacrosse teams? So I went through all the schools with lacrosse teams, and the story of how I got to Clark is funny because like B+ student all the way up until college, where I had like a 2.6, which is not good, not the kind of grades that help you transfer. So I get a meeting. Get me in a room with somebody. That's what I always say to people, just get me in a room. Got in a room with an admissions guy, and I was like, listen, I know the transcript's not impressive, but I'm gonna do everything I can to be a great student and like someone that gives back to the school. Like, I want to go here. This is where I want to go. Academically, it was out of my reach. I knew that, but I was like, we have money to pay for it, like all this stuff. I'm gonna write for the paper, I'm gonna write for the school magazine, I'm gonna play lacrosse, all this stuff. He's like, he just kind of did a big sigh. And he's like, this is my last day. And I was like, okay. And he's like, give me a second. He left the room. And I'm like sweating, like this is not gonna go well. He comes back in the room and hands me my own folder. And he goes, you're in. I'm like, what? He's like, just do everything in the folder and you're in. And I was like, okay, are you sure? He's like, yeah. So that's how I got into Clark. I didn't deserve it, but I'm good in a room. And if you can impress people with who you are and the things that you can do, and if you follow through on them, and that's what I did. I followed through. I wrote for the paper. I wrote for the magazine. I played lacrosse. I did everything I could to be a good student and a good athlete. So that's how it happened. Clark changed my life. That's why I wore the shirt today.
How did Clark change your life?
Clark changed my life in that it gave me, people believed in me. And I think not for the first time in my life. Obviously, my parents have always been there and my friends, but people in higher positions, authority figures, I was just kind of a punk to a lot of people because I was a punk. And like I look back and I'm like, well, you were that. But they respected my work, my voice, my writer voice, my vision, like a lot of these things, and they helped me develop it, right? I had a lot of ideas, a lot of them were stupid. I did playwriting, it was amazing. I got to see my own play put on. I did script writing with one of the guys who helped the Farrelly brothers write There's Something About Mary. Like, I had so many opportunities, and it was amazing. And I took every single one. I didn't succeed every time, but I took every single one. And, it's one of the things I tell the kids at Hopkinton to do. Because I did it, and it works. If you really go hard at it, you can only get mad if you fail, if you don't prepare for something, or if you don't try your best. If you, prepare, try your best, and you still fail, like, you're not really failing if you learn from those things. Like, that's you fail if you just go into something and don't care. If you care and you prepare, you're good. So that's how it changed my life. I love Clark forever.
So after graduating from college, what was your degree? Where did you think you wanted to go? Because you wound up doing some coaching.
Right. So my degree is technically in Shakespearean literature. Because you had to pick a concentration.
I would not guess that.
I just had enough. I just had enough class levels to pick that, where I didn't have to do more. That's all that is. And I had a minor in film studies, so that was cool. That was I love movies. I still love movies, and I really wanted to maybe not get into that. I didn't think I was talented enough. My screenwriting teacher told me I should write for TV. And I kind of took that as an insult, but I probably shouldn't have. He was still trying to be encouraging. And after that, I knew I couldn't give up lacrosse, and I really wanted to coach. I didn't have great experiences with coaches, any sport, none. And especially my senior year at Clark, I did not like him, and I didn't like the guy before either. It was two coaches, and I was like, you guys have no idea what you're doing. If you can do this, I can go do this. Technically, I did. I don't think I was very good at it for a long time. I don't think I was a great coach. I think the difference between college coaching and high school coaching is huge, right? College coaching is mostly recruiting. It's just recruiting. You're there to recruit. You coach maybe 5 to 10% of the time. Everything else is admin work, and you're on the road, and you're trying to recruit kids. And that was a very hard lesson. I didn't like it. Because not every kid wants to go to your school, no matter what your school is. There's going to be kids that just don't want to go there. And I coached at a lot of schools where that was the case. And then I coached at schools where I couldn't get kids in that I wanted. Or Emerson I coached at Emerson. Emerson was so hard because kids had to send in reel. It's so hard to get in Emerson. You have to send in a reel. You have to send in your clips of you acting, doing audio, singing, all sorts of stuff, on the radio, personality, all that stuff. You had to send in everything. And if you weren't good enough, you just didn't get in. We had no pull. It was hard. It was very hard, but it was very rewarding because we got great kids in it. We actually got kids in from Berklee College of Music. So I coached kids that were guitar majors. That was wild. It was fun, drum majors. What are you doing? I'm going to be a conductor. I'm like, what? But it was awesome. So that was a great coaching experience. That was kind of towards right before I went to Daniel Webster, where I was the head coach for 6 years. First I went to Plymouth State, then Franklin Pierce, then St. A's, where I coached with the great Jerry Byrne, who's now the head coach at Harvard. Taught me everything I know. How I run the box at Hopkinton is because of him. How I run stuff at Hopkinton with regimented is because of him. So I give him a lot of credit. Being a head coach at a small college is hard. I didn't love it. And eventually I got out and decided to pursue more of the writing angle, and eventually just talked my way into being a gear and lifestyle editor inside Lacrosse, which is a national publication and out of Baltimore. And that was great for as long as it lasted. That was about 5-6 years. And then the pandemic hits, and just like everyone else, I'm screwed. So I actually pandemic hits, then I break up with my girlfriend of 3 years, and I'm in shambles. My sister, who lives in Hopkinton, takes me in, basically. I'm like a wounded duck. She takes me in, and I'm still doing freelance for everybody, just trying to make ends meet. And I remember I saw an ad, coaches. And I was like, I think I want to coach again. So I talked to a couple friends of mine in the area, and they were like, well, Hopkinton and Bo are hiring. I'm like, well, my sister lives in Hopkinton. Technically, I live in Hopkinton right now. Right before they shut down the school, that day, they shut the school down, I had an interview with Dan Reserve. And then he emailed me, he's like, can't come in. Shut down everything. I was like, great. A whole year goes by. It's like almost 2021. And I get an email in like January, and he's like, hey, are you still interested in this? And I was like, at the time I was living in Hooksett, and I was like, yeah. And I interviewed, kind of did a call with Coach Deacon, which, as you know, as we talked about before we started rolling, like, we're total opposites.
Yep.
I love talking. It's like one of my favorite things. Like, I love communicating with people. It's like my job is communicating with people. That's not his job. And I mean that in the best way, because he is awesome. And I think for me, like, we didn't connect right away because, like, we couldn't find the thread. But the thread was lacrosse. And if you all get on the same thread, like, you can make something awesome together. And eventually we found each other's strengths, weaknesses. At first we were like, are you going to talk in the huddle? I'm like, I want to talk in the huddle. I want to talk all the time. Every huddle I want to talk. And it took a little bit for him to kind of give that away, and then for me to give it back too. Like, that was a good way for us to kind of break the tension between each other and the team. And I'm sure if you talk to kids on that first year team, they're like, I don't know what was going on those first couple games, but I loved it. And I continued to love it. It was so much fun. And I just kept, I remember we lost in the semis to Trinity, who had like D1 players, future D1 players all over the roster, at least 3 or 4. And everything goes out, and Eli Standiford broke his leg that year. So we had a backup in net, Danny, who never played sports before. But he got us to the semis. And I remember walking up to him, and he's like, Coach. And I was like, didn't we deserve to win? And he's like, no. And I'm like, then we didn't win. I kind of just, it's one of the first times where I just kind of, listen, that wasn't a game we were going to win. And as soon as I turned around, Coach Deacon's there. And all the kids left. And he's like, please come back. And I'm like, really? And he's like, the kids love you. Like, you have to come back. Please. And I was like, okay. So then, ever since then, it's just been automatic that I'm here. This is where I belong. And I felt that through 22 when we lost the championship to Laconia. I felt it in 23 when we won. I felt it this year when we lost in the semis to Campbell. Like, it's a special place. Like, I really, really love it here. And I love the kids. I love the attitude. I love the way the program's run. I love the youth program. I love the school. I mean, it's everything I didn't know that I wanted, right? And I just get to be a part of it. It's not mine. I don't own it. None of the kids that played here own it. You just got to be a part of something really special. And I think that's very important. If you're a younger player and you're watching this, you're going to come play at Hopkinton. Like, I'm sure you've heard a bunch of stories, and they're all true. They're good or bad, they're all true. But the underlying current of all those stories is like that Coach Blue and I care so much about the program, the kids, and the direction that we have to have, and winning the right way. Like, we do play rough sometimes, but like, we're not a goon team. We don't slow the ball down, much to my chagrin. I wish we did. But I love that we have kids that will just put it all on the line for us. Like, we never asked them to do stuff that they couldn't do. And they over-delivered every year. Every year, they've over-delivered on expectations.
Wow. So for you, out of your like college coaching experiences, would you learn from each of them? What were some of your favorite moments with stuff like that?
College coaching. Ugh. Learning how to run the box from Jerry Byrne was incredible. Like, having a numbers system, having guys on both sides of the ball, having 2 parts of the line, all of that. We've seen teams copy that in our league at Hopkinton because they watched me do it. And we would beat teams out of the box. People like to do the slow sub. We do quick subs. We don't waste any time. You're coming off, you're coming on. You're coming off, you're coming on. There's rules to how we do everything. That came from GB. Emerson, I was one of the first times I formed really close bonds with the kids, to the point where like, they're still kids that'll text me this day. Now they're like camera operators in Hollywood. One of them has a Emmy. A couple of them have Grammys. Like,
wow,
they're very super
crazy.
successful kids, and they're awesome kids, and I formed really good bonds with them kind of for life. That's one of the great things about college coaching is like you're getting kids at a time where they kind of need someone like you, and I don't think I was ready to be that a lot of the time. I think I was always, not always, but I think as my career went on in college, I realized that like I wasn't giving them what they needed, because and people know this that know me, I blame everything on myself. Like losses, anything goes wrong, I'm like, that's my fault. Like I'm a thumb guy. We call them thumb guys, right? Like it's my bad, right? Like we didn't do this enough. Like this is my fault. I'm the first person to be accountable for something, because I learned that if you're not that person, you're the opposite of that person. The opposite of that person is everyone else, and that's not a person you want to be. Like I don't know how better to explain that, but like there's a lot of people that just won't take accountability, and I learned through coaching in college that you have to. And you have to be your authentic self. And that's one of the reasons I love Hopkinton is like, I'm me all the time here. This is like what I'm like all the time. Raging ADD. Like I will just talk for hours. I'll talk lacrosse. I mean, Aiden Burns comes back. He graduated in 22 and helped us win a championship in 23 as an assistant coach too. And every time I talk to him, it's like 2 hours. It's 2 hours, and I no complaints. I'm happy to do it. I like talking lacrosse with him. I like talking about his life. He's super successful. Super proud of him, and I think that's one of the things too. Is like super proud of so many kids that have come through the program and had success later, and guys that are now going to play in college. Like that's awesome. Like there have been a couple players from Hopkinton who played in college, but like we're really trying to get whole classes ready for that, if they want it. If they want it, I'm going to help you get it. And sometimes it's worked out, sometimes it hasn't, but my whole thing with college is like find the right spot. Whether it's playing, living, studying the thing you want to study, like you really have to find the right spot for you. Once you find that, it'll change your life. Just like that's how I feel about Clark. Like you just got to find your Clark. Everybody does. And once you do, it doesn't have to be college either. It can be other things. But once you find the thing that gives you confidence and allows you to kind of open up as a person, like you're going to do better in life,
Really, really well put. I want to get into your journalism career a bit, because that's a road I'm definitely interested in. We share that.
Obviously.
So can you talk about how that all started?
Ooh, man. So my first, I started out covering pro lacrosse because no one wanted to do it. I just started doing something no one wanted to do. And I became good at it because I had to. If you do something enough, you get good at it, right? We call it reps. If you get enough reps doing something, you're going to be good at it eventually. No one's going to suck forever at everything. That's not how it works, okay? Everybody that's a champion, you're wearing a Celtic shirt. Those dudes did millions of reps to get to the point where they can win an NBA championship, right? Not everyone can do that, obviously. There's talent involved, but the work that you put in is the thing that helps you. So for me, covering that, learning how to do it, asking the right questions, I guess like getting over being impressed was hard. I think that's one of the things, because I ended up interviewing a ton of my heroes, and now I have their cell phone numbers.
That's awesome.
And it's but I don't bug them. Do you know what I mean? A couple times I've asked them for stuff, for advice or things like that. I don't ask them for their jerseys or anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not how you do it. That's not professional. And I think once I learned how to be professional with it, and I made it into a craft, something I worked really hard at. I used to write 3,000 word articles, just obsess over every line. And now I don't, because no one likes that anymore. First of all. Second of all, it's not productive. It was productive to learn, but it wasn't productive to turn it into something where I could make it into a living. And I think honestly, it's just persistence and reps. That's it. Like, you just have to be, you can't give up. Like, I should have given up a lot. I was so poor when I was coaching college and writing. I would beg freshmen for swipes into the cafeteria so I could get, like, I could make myself sandwiches for the week, and I would smuggle them out wrapped in napkins. Like, that was my life. I'm like dodging all sorts of stuff. I just got my student loans forgiven for grad school that I didn't even finish because I had to take it to get the stipend, right? Like, it was dumb. Like, I did a lot of dumb things to keep up the dream, right? But I made it through because I never gave up. I never stopped. Like, I sacrificed a lot. Like, this is like way too personal, but like, I didn't, my whole 20s, I didn't go on one date. I had no girlfriend, I had nothing. And I was like, I can't afford that. That's not in the cards for me right now. We'll get to that when we get to that. And I totally sacrificed. Those are the best years of your life. You know, like, for a lot of reasons, that's cut out. But I made the decision, you know, and I didn't, not just for me, because it wouldn't be fair to them, right? Like, no one wants to date a loser assistant coach. Like, that's, like, when I was in my 30s, I felt like secure enough to try it. And I remember I told one girl what I did, and she's like, "Oh, what do you want to do when you grow up, though?" And I was like, jeez. Dude, it was like a knife, like a hot knife right here into my heart. And it was hard. Like, but eventually, if you break through and you do get an opportunity to be full-time, or at least get enough contract work for things to make sense for you, you can make it into a career. And I did this before you could make money on social or podcasts or anything like that. Like, I was doing it the oldest school way possible, just volume. I was just cranking out stuff, and that supplemented enough. And eventually, it's someone will recognize that. Someone will recognize your talent and effort, and they'll give you a chance. And you just have to do your best with it. You know, you might not get it the first couple of times. You know, I work for a totally different company now. I work for New England Lacrosse Journal. I'm the managing editor. I didn't start as the managing editor. Started as a freelancer, then I became a staff writer. Then I became an editor. Then I became managing editor. And it's because I had all this banked. I had this work banked. And I knew what to do. I learned new things. I was willing to try new things. And I'm like the happiest I've ever been in my life. Like, it's awesome. It's a great job. I got a podcast. When a guy who's become my best friend, Jack Piatelli, like, he's an older guy. He's like 60. My best friend's a 61-year-old. But he's amazing. He's so cool. Like, I got to see his son play in the NCAA D1 championship for Cornell. I've had so many experiences because I made those sacrifices early. And if I didn't do those things, I wouldn't be here. I might be like a gym teacher or a banker or like a lawyer or something. But I was, in my mind, I say that and I don't believe it. I say that and I don't think I could ever do anything else other than what I'm doing now. So that's all it is. It's just reps and experience.
Awesome. Final closing thoughts with anything in terms of advice? You've laid a lot out there that's really, really, really good.
No, I mean, for you want advice for you? Okay. This is what I think. I think when you've upgraded the mics since we last talked, I think the next step is probably like a bigger camera, maybe like trying to get some studio space or renting it or getting something that looks like a studio.
Okay.
And kind of being a little more like structured with what you're doing and try to shoot for the moon with guests, man. Like, don't just like, I'm not a great guest. I'm just a dude.
You're a lot better than you give yourself credit for.
I'm just a dude. I'm just the dude that loves lacrosse that happens to be in Hopkinton, and you happen to be in Hopkinton. And I'll say this, like, one of the things about growing up, I grew up in Henniker. I know Hopkinton really well. When you grow up in a small town, you have no idea how big the world is. You just don't. And going out and exploring that however you can is going to teach you a lot of lessons, but you should never forget where you come from, right? I think you're already at that spot, but I think branching out is a way to go. Like, not only is Hopkinton small, New Hampshire small, and then you realize New England's small. And then you're like, all right, where's somewhere big? Oh, it's New York. Parts of New York are small. You know what I mean? Like, where else could I go? I would never recommend going to LA. I think it's a terrible place. I've been there. It's awful. Sorry, shade on LA, but I've been to Europe. I've been to Canada. I played box lacrosse in Canada. I played on Native American reservations. And I only did that because I just said yes. So like at your age and your experience level, just like keep saying yes to stuff, even if you don't think you're gonna be good at it, or you're not prepared as much as you'd like to be. You're not as comfortable. Get out of being comfortable, right? Like that's my number one thing. I'm just saying it to you on the camera, and you can clip this or not. Just get out of being comfortable, dude, because that's where the learning is. That's where the work is. Like anyone can stay in their comfort zone forever, but I mean, I covered women's lacrosse. I covered so much crazy stuff. I've covered soccer. I wrote for a blog of my favorite Premier League team, Aston Villa. I wrote for the Sports Nation blog of them for like a couple months, and it was super fun, and they never paid me. Never paid me. Learn how to invoice people, make as many contacts as you can, be relentless on social, be relentless on LinkedIn, be relentless in person, and just go after everything you want to go for. And things will eventually, you get the reps, you get the experience, you get the comfortability. There's no, people live their life with limits. Like you don't have to do that. Do you know how many people told me no? I shouldn't do this?
A lot of people.
My college friends held an intervention. They were on a balcony at a party, and they were like, and I was looking around, and I'm like, why are you guys all out here? What's happening? I'm sitting in the corner, this small deck, and one of my friends closes the door, and he's like, we don't think you should be doing this coaching thing, dude. And I'm like, what? Because they knew I was unhappy, and I was poor, and like I didn't have a girlfriend. Like it was sad. It's sad to them. They're all like, they were bankers, and like a couple of them were already lawyers and all this stuff. And they're just like, would you think you should do something else? And I was like what? I now have no qualifications to do anything. I'm a lacrosse person. I can do like 4 jobs. What do you want me to do? And they were like, anything, man. And I was like, you want to go work at Home Depot? What do you want me to do? Like, give me an option. You can't do this and not give me an option. And they didn't really have one. And I remember just like leaving and being like, are these actually my friends? Like, why would my friends do this? And they had good intentions. I'm not shading them at all. But like, I remember being in that moment and just being like, this is the choice. Like, you made the sacrifices. Do you want to stop making those? Like, is it not rewarding? And I think back, and like, a lot of the time it wasn't. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, like, it's hard. It was very, very hard. But it got me to where I am now. It gave me the mentality to succeed when every single person tells you no. But if you believe in it with all of your heart, and you really think that this is what you're destined to do, like I did, it'll work out. You'll find a way. You just have to make a deal with yourself. How many sacrifices am I willing to make? And for me, I got to here. I got to Hopkinton. Like, this is my home now. I don't live here. I wish I lived here. Taxes are too high. Just saying. But that's all it is, man. It's making the sacrifices, following through, getting the reps, and really setting your eyes on a goal and not letting anyone tell you can't do it.
This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
That was great.
Subscribe.